Wealth mobsters. What's going on? Happy Saturn Day, indeed. Hello, you guys are new. I haven't seen you guys comment before. What's going on? You guys are having a good day. We'll just give it a little bit for some people to come in the room. I'm not going to be on very long today, so I'm kind of tired, but I did want to address. Here's a new one, too. Howdy. Hello. There's a lot going on with this, so let me see if I can't pull up my post that I made so I could share it with you guys when more people come in. Uh-huh. All right. This is going to work, okay. It seems very big events are in the future, not too far away. They always dangle it right in front of your face. There's always, yeah. They're trying to continuously get you off the Epstein files, so they're going to throw everything at you, and it's going to work for the majority of people, unfortunately. Todd's here. What's up, bud? So yeah, they're just going to keep throwing more stuff at you, Um, what's on everybody's mind before I get into the main topic? Just taking a break from fishing. I went fishing once in my life. I was like 14. I just never gone fishing, except for that one time. Um, Probably should do it more. I heard it's very relaxing. It's good for you. I want to read you guys something. I'm not going to share this on the screen, but I'm going to read you something. The ritual was called Wikanjpi Wayut, star feeding. Lakota healers used it for those who lost loved ones or survived violence. The person didn't talk about the trauma, they fed it. They'd gather stones representing the pain, then carry them to a river and release them one by one while speaking the memory out loud to the water. The final stone was kept as a reminder that grief was witnessed, not erased. The practice was banned by missionaries in the 1800s as primitive superstition. Missionaries. But in 2019, Johns Hopkins Trauma Research recreated it with PTSD patients. They found the physical act of releasing objects while verbalizing trauma engages both hemispheres of the brain, something talk therapy alone doesn't achieve. Result after 6 sessions: PTSD symptoms reduced 73%. Intrusive thoughts decreased by 81%. Emotional regulation improved 6 times faster than traditional therapy. The protocol, modern adaptation: gather some small objects, stones, paper, anything tangible. Each object represents one painful memory or feeling. Go to a natural setting, a river, an ocean, a forest. Hold each object, speak the memory out loud. Release it physically, throw it, bury it, burn it. Keep one object as a witness. The act of physical release signals to the brain that the memory has been processed. Therapy organizations push back hard. One psychologist association called it unscientific and potentially harmful. But the data showed otherwise. The modern therapy model profits from long term treatment. A ritual that works in 6 sessions disrupts a multi $billion industry. Try it with one painful memory. Lakota healers said the wound that's held grows, the wound that's released heals. Your brain doesn't need endless analysis. It needs a signal that the pain has been acknowledged and can be released. Most people are still carrying stones from 2 decades ago or decades ago. So I thought that was quite interesting. And of course it was bad. But I mean, missionaries did this. You know what else missionaries did, guys? What else missionaries did? When formula first came out, what they did was, well, because when a woman breastfeeds, the baby's saliva goes back into the mother's nipple. Some of it does. And it signals to the body what the baby needs more of: calcium, phosphorus, fiber, whatever it is. The mother's body adjusts to it. It's a communication. People who breastfeed tend to not get as fat because formula is very fattening and it stores in the fat cells. People who breastfeed tend to, oh, by the way, when you breastfeed, you get, as long as you're breastfeeding, you're covered with your mother's immune system. What they did was they went to Africa, and a bunch of people from Nestle paid some people to wear lab coats. They weren't even doctors, they weren't even nurses. They wore lab coats, and they took them to Africa, and they convinced the people that they were doctors and to stop breastfeeding and start using formula. I think the one thing that disturbs me and disgusts me the most about this dimension is that the answer to 99 out of 100 questions out there is money. That's all anyone thinks about. And they keep you in a sense of constant worry, whether they're throwing the news at you or whether they're just throwing you all sorts of stuff at you. They keep you in a sense of money while people keep fighting over the Republicans and the Democrats. Who's going to elect who? Who's going to get elected? Yay, my guy won. Yay, my guy won. Then they get into Congress and they start stripping your rights. You're literally voting for people to strip your rights. You know what the ancient Greeks used to do? The ancient Greeks used to do? Say hi. Hi, Lola. You know what the ancient Greeks used to do? They used to do something which was very interesting. They used to have, they would take everybody in town and they would give them all, not a scrap of papyrus, but they gave them shards of clay, because that was kind of like there's just so much extra clay that they had shards of clay. And what they would do is they would give them something and they'd engrave on it. And what they would do, I forget if it was the Romans or the Greeks. I think it was the Romans, actually. And what the Romans would actually do is they would get all these people and they would ask, who should we ostracize? That's where it comes from, ostracization. Because they used to ostracize people. Because what would happen was, if they were like, this guy's been fucking over this many people, and he had X amount of people write his name on it, I forget what the threshold number was, but if that was met, if let's say there was 300 people in the room and 50 people wrote this guy's name or etched it on a little shard of pottery, the person was banished from their civilization for 10 years. I believe that's what happened to Dante Alighieri with the Divine Comedy when he came out and wrote that. So, I mean, the answer to everything is money. I mean, naturalistic, holistic medicine obviously works. But during the Flexner report that Rockefeller had commissioned, that one report, there were 165 colleges teaching medicine. After the Flexner report, there was only like 35. And the other ones taught homeopathic stuff, Dr. Sebi stuff. And just in case you think that Dr. Sebi was not right, or you think he might have been a quack, he was brought to trial in New York, not for the treatment that he gave, but they brought him to court for saying that he cured someone. The word cure, they don't like that. They don't want to cure anything. They want to treat, because that's how they make money. They took him to court because he said that he had cured AIDS. And he took him to court in New York City, and he won. In the courtroom, 13 or 30 people came in who had been cured and testified on his behalf, right? And then, obviously, they couldn't make him go away that way, so they got rid of him. And then, if you're familiar with the rap world, Nipsey Hussle was producing a documentary on Dr. Sebi and was going to get this all out when he was gunned down in front of his store. And then immediately after that, Nick Cannon, right? 12 kids with 11 women, including Mariah Carey. Nick Cannon said he was going to take over the documentary just to whitewash it. It's basically the Erica Kirk thing. You had Charlie Kirk that was doing really good work, that was waking up to what was actually happening in the world, and then they had to make him go, and then she stepped in. Nissan Toronto says, hello from Northern Ireland. My God, it is late there. Hello there to you. Ray Benson says, hey, puppy. Hey, poop. Thanks, Todd. So, guys, I just want to share you. Todd says that's just evil. Yeah, well, that's how it works. That's how it works. There was supposedly a meeting of high-ranking, and I'm not talking about high-ranking in like the archive. I'm not talking high-ranking as in the Catholic Church, kind of like their hierarchy system that they have. But these were really important people. There were some Christians that were called to D.C. to get briefings on what to explain to the congregation when they found out that ETs exist. Of course ETs exist. They created us. One of the most unbelievable things to me, as it stands right now, one of the most unbelievable things to me is that people think that it's only, that the world is only 6,000 years old. I mean, just if I were to just come into this world, wouldn't you be like, that doesn't sound right at all? Not that I have the exact age, but that's so short. And Don Bino says, greetings, brother. It's 1:37 and I need my beauty sleep, dude. You're so right about everything you're saying. I think the world is awakening. Nissan, I have a book series that I wrote that I would love to get in your hands. If you want to go to my website, debunkmywork.com. It's all there. But you're in Northern Ireland. I don't know if you have Amazon. Unfortunately, I have to use Amazon, but I don't know if you have Amazon. But if you don't, I could send them to you if you're interested in getting them. Kathy is here. Kathy made it. Kathy's always here. Hello. So that's basically what's going on. Todd says great books. I'm glad Todd read them. Thank you, Todd. Like I say, guys, look, I don't have a Patreon. I'm never going to have a Patreon. I don't. I'm never going to charge for my knowledge. If you want to support me, I have a book series. I also sell a flash drive that has all my decodings, the PowerPoints that I make. If you've been to my website, debunkmywork.com, and if you've been to my Rumble and if you've been to my this YouTube, if you've ever actually danced around my YouTube, send me the details and I'll get them bought. It's called Into the Rabbit Hole series. It's called the Into the Rabbit Hole series. Into the Rabbit Hole by Micah Dank. There's 8 books. Debunkmywork.com. That's the website, Nissan, if you want to go there. I think something big is going to pop off around July 4th. It's 250-year mark, and how can they not do something? You know, there's been multiple. Schlumberger, I saw your comment. You were the one that commented on one of my videos, one of my last videos that I saw, and I saw your comment. Cujo's here. Hey. There's been studies on this. Historical records show that societies usually rise, or empires, I should say. Empires usually last about 250 years. And to be honest with you, it is pretty much at this stage of the game, you can see it falling apart. I mean, the amount of people don't realize how censored we are in this country. People don't realize it. If you ever listen to some of Putin's speeches or some of the things that is coming out of Iran, if you can ever find it, you'd have to go on X or Twitter to get information, but it's very depressing on there. What's up, bro? Hope life's been very chill. The rat experiment that ran 23 times a rat utopia. Exactly. I think they ran it more than that. I think it was like 35 times, but every time it was the same thing. It collapsed upon itself. I don't know. So let me share with you guys the title of this video. I don't know if you guys can see this. No, I can't zoom in anymore on this picture. If you guys see this right here, this was released on page 42. Page 42 of the alien disclosure thing that the government released. Do you guys see the ring here, the ring here, the ring here, the ring here, the eye in the middle? It is the same thing here on the left. This is Ezekiel's vision. This is Ezekiel's wheel. Ezekiel 32:30. This is Ezekiel's vision. This right here, all the way on the left, is called an oraphim. That is what an angel looks like. I'm sure you guys have seen the million eyes pictures of what an angel actually looks like, and maybe even a joke against about Christians, like if they saw that they would freak out. This is a legitimate picture of what it is. And in fact, if you were to go and you can't buy them anymore, but if you have an original Nikon 900, and before they took it back and they refurbished them, and you zoom in on a star, you'll see the same thing. See, angels and demons are actually real, guys. Angels and demons are very real. They are just not what they are explained to be in the Bible. That's like a watered down story version of what it actually is. But angels and demons are very real. Wheel within a wheel, hiker chick is here. I saw that staring at the sun yesterday. Todd, I didn't know that you were in a van down by the river right now, but get home safe, my friend, okay? Yep. So they released this because, ooh, I like this comment. Plasma beings jinn, are smokeless fire. That's plasma. Schlumpberger. E. Schlumpberger. Plasma beings. Jinn are smokeless fire. That's plasma. You guys are going to start to, when you get to this stage, you'll discover that 90 to 95% of everything is plasma. And when you start to understand the ether that they removed from textbooks, coincidentally after Nikola Tesla died and Donald Trump's uncle hid all his work, you can't make this stuff up. It's just, it is what it is. That's what happened. And everything is plasma. It's not just in your blood, but so the ether, right? You know those, think about in Turkey, you have those big buildings that are gorgeous that we can't recreate, that have the big dome with the thing. Those are energy portals. They're not portals. Those are energy harvesters of the plasma. That's what they do. And they obviously aren't being used. Not in a van I walked. All right, Todd. Cool. Edward. All right, Ed. I'll try and remember that. Thank you. You're in honor, Mike. I salute to you and the kinfolk. Well, thank you. Welcome. Hiker chick. We used to sing a song in children's church and would sing, Ezekiel saw a wheel way up in the middle of the air. Ooh, Ezekiel saw a wheel. You know, I recently heard that when churches have the sex talk with budding people, the way they explain it is like a key going in a lock. And I just burst out laughing when I heard that. Children's song, Ezekiel saw a wheel. Hiker chick, I'll have you sing that for me one day. I discovered Electric Universe at 13. I'm 40 now. All right, Ed. Well, I'm 42. Have you read Walter Russell's work? Resonating capacitors. That goes back to Tartaria, too, guys. Tartaria existed, by the way. You can find textbooks in the same way that you can find the Indiana Jones movie. Was it the Indiana Jones movie? Yeah, the Indiana Jones movie. One of the last ones, the one that came out in 81. Shows a map of the Middle East, and it clearly says Palestine on it. That was in 81. Tartaria was literally on the map. It literally said Tartaria. You could buy a globe from 100 years old if you could find one. It says Tartaria on it. They made it go away. Demons exist in their own dimension. Demons can come into you when you lower your vibration. Some things that lower your vibration are alcohol, for example. That's why it's called alcohol. Alcohol means mind-eating spirits. Demons they're non-physical, but they feed off of your fear, energy, and pain, which is why the news and everything wants to push fear onto you, because it's like a food source. It literally is a food source. And what they want to do is inhabit bodies, because they're not physical, but they want to be physical. It was my favorite song to sing. Well, that's nice. What do you think about all this alien disclosure? It's a... well, let's talk about what disclosure means, for starters. You guys have to understand something. I think I've said it before. Alien disclosure... when you go to a UFO conference, you're not going there to see pictures of flying saucers and to sit next to some dude dressed up like a gray. That's not what an alien... That's not what disclosure is. Disclosure is coming out and explaining what alien technology is when they reverse engineer things. The alien thing is very real. I mean, Jimmy Carter saw one. It was verified by 8 people, and then he was elected president. But then he didn't share this, because what they told him, and he very, very famously cried when they told him this. Jimmy Carter cried when they told him this, and then he didn't release this to the public, is that religion has been engineered by aliens so that they can covertly continue to experiment on us, and that they have created us. And of course we've been created. You look at the chromosome 2 anomaly. It literally looks like a horseshoe that has been fused in the middle. And I'm not going to get into the fact that society was female before it was male. One of my biggest problems with the Old Testament and the Jews is that they flipped it into a patriarchy. Not that it should be a matriarchy or a patriarchy, but the Egyptians had it right. They venerated women because they were portals that brought life into this world, and they were equals. And everything went to shit when the Jews wrote the Old Testament. Hi from Ireland. Kazirev's mirrors are quite incredible. I'm not familiar with that. Eric, if you could just please let me know. I feel like the government has people more worried about aliens than their actual tech. As far as I know, there's sort of an understanding. I think a big portion of the aliens come from the bottom of the ocean, or in the ocean. That's where we get the idea of mermaids and mermen from, guys. How come in the age of Pisces there are all these fish gods, deities? Dagon, Mithra. I mean, the Pope still wears the fish head. Jesus was the Piscean solar fish deity, or Pisces deity. It was a matter of national security. Guys, people are very dumb. A group of people are very dumb. Individuals, you can talk to, like, like in this chat, you guys obviously came here because you think that or you like the way that I put words together, or you find my astrotheology interesting. And either way, I'm fine with that. But when you're talking to a individual or a small group, you talk very differently than when you're on stage in front of 10,000 people. Collective IQ goes down the more people that there are. This is a fact. This is why everything is boiled down to slogans: MAGA, Unite the Right, Build Back Better. I mean, they're catchphrases that the dumb sheep can repeat. But individually, you talk to these people, and they're like, "Yeah, it's stupid." But no, the more people you talk to, the more you have to dumb it down. People are stupid. Look what happened during COVID. People ran out and bought toilet paper for a respiratory issue. People are stupid. The government is not worried that people can't handle it. The government is worried that people are going to revolt and that they can't control them. That's why billionaires and all these people that go to the World Economic Forum and go to Davos and like all that shit, right? I'm not going to get into all that, but you guys know all that stuff, right? All these people that go there have big security. Do you think it's because they're important? No, it's because they're terrified of the public. They're terrified of people. They're terrified of a group of people. These people are creating legislation. These people are running things. They can be killed. And they're terrified that we're also a country, guys. 100 years ago, they were teaching Latin and Greek in high school. Now they have remedial English in college. And that's not just for English and second language. I'm talking remedial English. It's a combination of the Rockefeller educational system, which did this on purpose. You add also the DOE, the Department of Education. If you don't think that, if people think, oh my God, this is how people think. They got rid of the Department of Education. Oh, they don't want to teach kids. They don't want to teach them education. Name one metric that has improved since the Department of Education grew. Do you know why schools and universities cost so much fucking money right now? It has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of education you're getting or inflation. It has nothing to do with that. It's because 85%, and I'm just pulling that number out of my ass, but it's a very high percent. It's all bureaucratic administration work. People are just inventing jobs. They're just making shit up. And it's all administration. I think a lot of it is our military. Well, I mean, then you got to think of things like, Dr. Stephen Greer, right? Why is he allowed to talk about stuff? Why? You got to look at why certain people are allowed to operate at a high visibility level, sharing what they share. It's because they're not sharing the entire truth. I tell this to people all the time. When I talk to people, I say, look, and it's in one of my books too. It's a quote in one of my books. When you buy rat poison because you have a rat infestation, do you think it's just pills of cyanide and they just fucking swallow it and eat it? No. It's not. It's 99% like tailor-made food, and then there's just a little bit of poison. That's what these disinfo people are out there. Like your Russell Brands and your people who are allowed big platforms. They're 99% truth, but then they have that little bit of poison in them that keeps people off the actual beaten path. True truth tellers, Bill Cooper, Jordan Maxwell, they're not allowed to have big platforms. Kathy, I have a question. Why do the Muslims walk around that square that holds the rock, space rock? Let me show you something. Hold on. This is the cover of my 7th book. It's called The Unbegun. The Unbegun I stole from, I didn't steal, I borrowed from Mark Passio, right? The unbegun is what the elites call people who have not studied the esoterics or the occult or anything. They're known as the unbegun. Just useless eaters, that's what they're called. This is the Kaaba. It's a black cube. It's Saturn worship. It's why the Jews wear the black Kaaba, the black cube on their forehead. It's Saturn worship. Why? Because at the top of Saturn, there is a storm system that's a hexagon, right? The cube is in the middle of it. It's Saturn worship, all of it. The Muslims go back to the Jews. The story about the Muslims and the Jews, now I have my cat here. The story about the Muslims and the Jews, get your ass out of here. I know. The story about the Muslims and the Jews go back to this. Abraham in the Bible and Sarah wanted to have a son or a child, but Sarah was barren. So she told Abraham to knock up his maidservant. They had a child named Ishmael. Then God, at some point, unbarrens Sarah and says, you will have a child. And at 90 years old, as it's said in the Bible, she has a child named Isaac. Now, she resents Ishmael, even though it was her freaking idea, and they adorn Isaac. Fast forward to the sacrifice, where Abraham takes Isaac up on the mountain to kill him, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if this affects your story at all, but everybody always pictures Isaac as being a child and Abraham about to kill him. Isaac was 23 years old. Isaac was, for all intents and purposes, was an adult. But here's the thing. This is where the Muslims and the Jews get the issues from. People always say the Muslims, it's only a 1,400-year religion. It goes back to Muhammad 14 years. But those Semitic people, the Muslims, goes back to that because the Muslims say that Abraham took Ishmael up there, whereas the Jews say they took Isaac. And that is the very beginning. That is the fracture between the Jews and the Muslims. Why do they walk around the square that holds the rock? Well, it's and the rock, by the way, in the Kaaba, if you were to go in the Kaaba, there's a meteor. It's not from this world. It's a meteor. They touch it, it's supposed to bless them. I don't know. I went to Penn State for a little while for college, and they had a Nittany lion, and you would touch the nose. And it was obviously through people's oil, right, or statues, right, where you touch it in a certain place, and then that's what they do. High tech. True that. Okay. Balance between sexes. Thank you. All right, let me explain this to you guys. All right, I'm going to explain this to you, and this is going to sound absolutely batshit crazy, but it's true. If you look at DNA under a microscope, you will see that the Y chromosome over time is disappearing. It is disappearing. That is the male genes. Women are XX, men are XY. Women came first, not men. Remember, everything is inverted and perverted, right? They tell you that Adam was created first and then Eve came from... No. Women came first. Societies used to be like Wonder Woman, right? For example, Wonder Woman, who's based off of Artemis in the Greeks, and in the Romans, the Roman equivalent of Artemis in Rome was Diana, which is why Wonder Woman's name is literally Diana, because that's who she represents. There's something called parthenogenesis. And if you were to go to Google, if you don't believe me on this, you can look it up. They're now starting to find ways to make early spermatozoid cells out of women's cells from the bone marrow. Women used to do this naturally. Women would self-reproduce. Now, when you self-reproduce, obviously, if you're an XX and you don't have an XY or something different, you could only produce women. It was man that was created from woman. And they're only now starting to scientifically circle back to what we knew about thousands of years ago. It's called parthenogenesis. What women would do was their bone marrow would release sperm cells and it would impregnate themselves. It's the whole idea of the Virgin Mary. I think that's where that came from. I mean, I know the constellation Virgo, which I talk about in my work, but I think that's the idea of the virgin birth too. That's what it used to be. And if you don't believe me, the Y chromosome is disappearing. So it made me think of my research about the origins of mankind. All right, Johnny. Indeed, Jose mirrors are cool. I want to know more about that. What did John say? Hold on. So our species has no apex. What do you think the apex human may be? It's going to be merging with machines. They're going to find a way to transfer consciousness because consciousness is non-local. The brain is a receiver. It's a receiver. You are a consciousness in a meat suit that needs to eat and shit and do worldly things. When it's released, it goes away. That's Penrose's idea too. That Roger Penrose. Consciousness is in the microtubules of the brain, and it gets released during an NDE, and then it comes back. Which one day they'll figure out if that's real or not. But human apex, what they're trying to do. The reason Elon Musk wants to put consciousness in a robot body, basically, and they're talking about this too now. They're trying to get head transplants from billionaires whose body's breaking down and put them on a new body and let them live forever. And that's not going to work right now because, for starters, we don't allow stem cell research. Even though there are ways to get stem cells that are not through abortion or aborted fetuses, there are many other ways. They don't let that happen. And why is stem cell research important? Because if a spinal cord is severed, we cannot fix that. At least not yet. And what do you think is going to happen when you sever a spinal cord, take the head, and put it on a new body? The person, assuming it works, that person's going to be a quadriplegic. That's no life either. So what are they going to do? They're going to transfer your consciousness, put it into a body, and a metal body. Why? Because it doesn't break down. But you know what else it doesn't do? Die. And you know why that's important? Because the way that the world's set up right now is they want you to live with ailments. They don't want you to die. They want you alive but needing recurring pills or medications, or they want you paying into the system. If you go into a robot body and you can't die, do you know what happens? Now they can tax you forever. Because what they do when you die is they give you an inheritance tax or a death tax, and then that's it, and then you're gone, and you have your death certificate, and then they can't fleece you anymore. But if you put your consciousness in something else, then they can always charge you rent. Kozyrev mirrors are like scaled up versions of Planck constant. Ooh, I was talking to Dave Zed a long time ago when he didn't disappear on me, and we were still really close, and we were doing videos here and there. I asked him, I said, what do we need to do as society to get a Planck microscope. And he mentioned those mirrors. It just popped back in my head. He mentioned those mirrors. So, yeah, the Planck constant. Yeah, I forget what the Planck constant formula actually is, but it's apparently the smallest. And that's where the strings live, right? If string theory is correct. But, I mean, that's hermetics. That's the third hermetic principle. Everything vibrates. Aliens are very real. If there were no other beings in the universe, that would be an awful waste of space. That was from a movie, and I can't remember what it was. All right, that makes more sense than the P-52s or whatever A Masters claims are real, time-traveling humans. Frisians had it right. During times of peace, the female priestess had authority. During war, a male king did. Males are more primitive, for sure. Males are going to disappear, guys. Give it like one or two more zodiac sign changes and or age changes. The Y's going to disappear. They've got to figure that problem out. Yep, the ocean. All our internet cables are running on the bottom of the ocean. Did humans put them there? It's a good question. Women are portals. This is very true. They make you transcend normal thinking. Yes, they do. I hate when people say stay safe. Sue, go back to the beginning of this when you're done and watch it. You're right about the toilet paper. Kozyrev was a Russian scientist who set up an aluminum sheet 2 meter high in Fibonacci spiral. A man sitting at the center point were able to telepathically communicate for miles away. I'm thinking about this right now. That's interesting. Hold on. That's really interesting. This is why, John said something. This is why NASA stopped exploring the ocean, even in ancient depictions of the Anunnaki. Was robed in a fish head garb. When they spoke of the Abzu, the discovery underground, oceans bigger, yeah. I don't think they ever stopped exploring the oceans. Yes, I agree. The truth tellers are suppressed. A cross forms a cube. When you have a cross, when you flat pack a box, it becomes a cube. Yes, correct. The rings of Saturn is why they circle it. That makes sense. The Muslim Kaaba used to be a rectangle. It was changed to a cube. There are Muslim scholars who call it evil. It is. True about parthenogenesis. What is the deal with circumcision? If God wanted a male body to be like that, wouldn't they be doing that way? Is it cleanliness laws or some weird sex cult? I mean, you've read the Bible, right? Where King David, before he was king, when he was looking to marry the king's daughter, They asked him for 100 foreskins, and he brought 200 foreskins of the slain people. I don't know if their fetish is with foreskins. However, I did find out recently, there was an article that was written that said that they found that the male G-spot is not actually in the ass. That there is a little section on the foreskin that is the male G-spot. So go figure, they're trying to get rid of that. I'm telling you, everything went bad with the Old Testament. All you got to do now is poke the egg with the needle. I've heard that menopause is a lie, too. So maybe you can have a baby at 90. I mean, the 73-year-old woman had a baby. We are entering an age of the feminine goddess. And is it true that there is a sheet with a hole in it for sex, another weird sex ritual? That happens in Orthodox Jewish communities. I'm assuming you have a lot of Jewish questions. A must C 322. Maybe I'll do an episode on that. Yes, they want us to pay subscription for robot body. Exactly. I miss Zed too. Yeah. He was a good dude. I do not consent to staying on this earth via robot. Gravity is made from perfected charge collapse at the Planck constant, and the Klein-Gordon lattice is the structure. The coherent collapse of charge folds like the petals of a rose folding into the pin. You know, gravity's still a theory. Gravity's not actually a fact or a law, the law of gravity. It's the theory of gravity still. And of all the other forces, there's 4 forces, right? Gravity, they can't make gravity fit in with the other 3. The other 3 lock like a key, but they can't fit gravity into it. There's got to be something up with that. All those cables at the bottom of the ocean weren't at the bottom of the ocean before the flood. Nobody thinks of that, right? How the hell did they get cables at the bottom of the ocean? Did they just drop it into the water? Did they take submarines and they just started shooting it out? How did they? It's unbelievable. The movie Contact, that's an amazing movie. All right, guys. So I've been on for about an hour. I think I'm going to go relax. And much love, everybody. For those of you who are interested in this kind of stuff, please go to my website, debunkmywork.com. I have 4 videos on the top of the website. On top of the you'll see it when you get in there. It's a real easy website to navigate. My books are down about halfway down into the page. They're in order. If you guys want to find out what else they're not telling you. And much love, everyone.